They say the average child stops believing in Santa around the age of 8, maybe 8.5. But not me, because I'm not like other kids. You see, I've actually met Santa many times. Now I know what you're thinking. That's not possible. Santa isn't real. Well, you're both right and wrong at the same time. And for that very reason, I stopped telling people the story after I turned 10. But it goes something like this. I remember loving Christmas, the lights, the sounds, the decorations, the stockings, and most of all, like any young child, waiting for Santa to come down the chimney to give me my presents. One Christmas Eve, when I was 4 years old, I remember insisting to my mom that we leave just the right amount of cookies on the table for him. For some reason, my 4-year-old self had decided that he only liked the oatmeal ones, and not those made with chocolate chips like we actually had in the kitchen. So my mom and I cooked up a batch just to leave for him. A batch that she helped me bake with love, knowing they would go to waste. That night, I remember putting myself to bed extra early, knowing that the faster I went to sleep, the faster I would wake up in the morning to the presents that always awaited me on Christmas morning. I had been fast asleep that night when I was suddenly awoken by the sound of rustling on the roof above me. This was it, I thought to myself. It's Santa. I'll finally catch him in the act. So I snuck out of bed, tiptoed downstairs, and as expected, spotted a man with a white beard, all dressed in red, standing in the living room by the Christmas tree. I ran to my parents' bedroom in excitement and tugged at their sheets. "Mommy, Daddy, Santa's here, Santa's here." My dad rolled over, eyes still closed, and humored me. "Oh yeah, he just came down the chimney. That's nice. Now go to bed, Bobby," my mom added before they both returned to their slumbers. I did as she said and went back to my room. But as soon as I heard my dad begin snoring again, I carefully made my way back down to the living room to catch another glimpse of Santa. I peeked my head around the corner, and there he was. It's really him. It's really Santa. I kept staring at him, not wanting to miss a moment of his visit, when he finally noticed me. He seemed puzzled for a moment before he waved me over. "Hi, Sant." I began to excitedly call him by name, but he quickly placed one finger over his mouth. "Shh, Bobby?" he whispered, before picking up one of the cookies we had left on a plate for him, dipping it in the glass of milk beside it, and taking a bite. Eventually, he reached into a large, green velvet bag, which was filled to the brim with packages, and removed one. He then proceeded to place the wrapped box on a rocking chair beside him and patted the seat, gesturing for me to join him. Who was I to disobey Santa? I thought to myself as I ran over to the chair, picked up the package, hopped onto the seat, and opened the gift in a scurry. I muttered as I unwrapped it and removed it from its packaging. It was a humble wooden box with a surface like a chessboard containing several small pieces, each resembling festive objects like a reindeer, a candy cane, a snowman, and a Christmas tree. "It's a game," Santa said with a smile, before explaining the rules. "Reindeer beats candy cane beats snowman, snowman beats the Christmas tree, and the Christmas tree beats reindeer." We played the game for hours, and as the night went on, I gradually learned how to play. That first year, he let me win. I know that for sure. After the third game that night, he smiled and told me I was good at the game. He then tipped his red cap, stood up, and let himself out the front door. As soon as my parents woke up the next morning, I rushed to tell them everything that had happened. But they laughed off my story, likely dismissing it as a child's fantasy, and we went about our Christmas Day traditions, just as we always had. Looking back on it, from a kid's perspective, there was nothing unusual about it at all. I was just playing a game with Santa. And so, I couldn't have been more excited when he returned a year later with the same game. We played it again, and I won again, which Santa seemed to be impressed by, laughing aloud as he scarfed down his cookies. It wasn't until the third year where things changed. That year, I was once again excited to play the now annual game with Santa. And just as he always did, he reached into his bag. But this time, he pulled out a different game. Not unlike the first, but this board was larger, with more pieces and far more complex. "Okay, Bobby, now that you're old enough, we're going to play for real." I wasn't sure what he was getting at, but I agreed to play anyway. He explained the new rules, which were a bit more difficult to follow, and we began to play. And this time, Santa won. Letting out a soft chuckle, he removed 2 items from his pocket, a piece of charcoal and a scroll. He then unrolled the paper, revealing the words, "Naughty List." Below them was a list of names. He then proceeded to take the piece of charcoal and scratch it across the first name on the list until it was completely crossed out, and then he simply left, just as he always did, through the front door. Truth be told, I didn't think much of it at the time, or the next year, or the one after that, and every year that he won, he would do as he always did and scratch a name off the naughty list. Now around this time, it just so happened that in my town, there came to be known something that the locals referred to as the Christmas murders. For 3 years in a row, 3 people had died on Christmas. We all knew their names well: Daniel Jones, Sarah Anderson, and Michael Taylor. By now, I was just old enough to be suspicious of the correlation, so the next year when Santa came around again, I paid careful attention to the first name on the list and memorized it before Santa crossed it out: David Miller. And sure enough, the next day the headline of our newspaper read, "Christmas Slayer Strikes Again. This year, David Miller." That's when I realized that every time I lost the game to Santa, an innocent person died. That's when I realized that this was not Santa. This was someone else. After that, I stopped looking forward to his visit. I tried everything, locking myself in my room, hiding in the attic, even running outside. But every year Santa found me. Every year we played the game. And every year that I lost, someone died. But last year was different. Last year, I refused to play the game. "But you have to, Bobby," Santa insisted. "Or what?" I shot back. "Well, let's see who's on the list this year," he said as he removed the paper from his pocket, unrolled it, and lowered his glasses. "Ah, yes, just as I thought." He pointed to the first name on the list. It was mine. "I don't want to," I cried out as I began to walk away. "If you don't play, then you get scratched off the naughty list, Bobby. And what do you think happens then?" "Who the hell are you?" I shouted. "I want to know, now." He belted out a laugh, just as Santa always did in all of those children's Christmas stories and movies, with his eyes closed and holding his belly, seemingly charmed by my reaction. "You know me, Bobby. I'm Santa. Get the hell out. I'm calling the cops." "Then you forfeit," he said menacingly as he removed the piece of coal from his pocket and was about to scratch off my name. "Wait," I called out as I stopped at the door and turned back to him. "All right, fine," I said, defeated, agreeing to play the game. And so, sitting there across from Santa and looking down at the wooden pieces, I began to think about everything he had ever taught me about the game, starting at the beginning. Reindeer beats candy cane beats snowman beats the Christmas tree, and the Christmas tree beats reindeer. But he was good at the game, too good, and nearly lured me into a false move. But this year, I was playing more carefully. I thought about every possible move, what his maneuver might be in return, and how I could counter. Somehow I got the feeling that I was about to make the exact move that Santa wanted me to make. But I was resilient. No matter what, this year, I had to win. And so I did. "Christmas tree beats reindeer," I said defiantly as I moved my Christmas tree piece forward, knocking his reindeer to the board. "Good job, Bobby." Santa congratulated me with a smile before standing up and walking away. "Maybe next year, I won't go so easy on you," he said before walking out the door, just as he always had. That was last Christmas. Coincidentally, the first year our town didn't see a Christmas murder, and since then, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Who is he? Why does he make me play the game? Is he doing this to anyone else? And will it ever stop? To this day, I still don't know the answers. But what I do know is Christmas is now just 7 days away. And all I want for Christmas this year is to stop playing the game. Growing up, Christmas was magical. The tree glowing softly in the corner, the smell of gingerbread wafting through the house, and the laughter of my family made it feel like nothing could ever go wrong. But there was one tradition that always felt off. Every Christmas Eve, just before bed, my parents would gather us around the fireplace. They'd turn off all the lights except for the glow of the fire and hand each of us a small bell. "Shake it once for Santa," Dad would say with a smile. "He needs to hear you." So we did. We'd each shake our bells in unison, filling the room with soft jingling, and then my parents would blow out the fire. And that was it. When I was young, I never thought twice about it. But as I got older, I started to notice strange things. The next morning, the fire would always be relit, even though no one got up to do it. There were faint, charred handprints on the brick surrounding the fireplace. One year, when I was about 12, I asked my mom why we did it. Her face turned pale. "It's just tradition," she said, brushing me off. But that answer wasn't enough. Last Christmas, I decided to stay up. I was 16 and too curious for my own good. My parents and little brother had gone to bed, the house was silent, and the fire had been snuffed out. I sat in the dark, the faint scent of smoke lingering in the air, waiting. At first, nothing happened. I almost gave up and went to bed. Then I heard it. A faint jingling, like someone shaking a bell far off in the distance. I froze. The sound grew louder, closer, until it was coming from the chimney itself. I held my breath, staring at the dark opening, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Something moved. I didn't see it at first, but I felt it. The cold draft that followed as a tall, gaunt figure emerged from the chimney. Its limbs were unnaturally long, its head bent to fit under the low ceiling. Its skin was ashen, flaking, with dark burns trailing up its arms, and it was holding a bell. It raised the bell slowly and shook it once, the sound sharp and clear in the silent room. I couldn't move. Its head turned toward me, hollow eyes boring into mine. A jagged smile spread across its face as it whispered in a voice that sounded like crackling fire. "You're not supposed to watch." The room went black. I woke up in my bed the next morning, trembling, my clothes reeking of smoke. My parents acted like nothing had happened, but when I went downstairs, I saw a fresh set of charred handprints on the fireplace, and a bell sitting on the mantel. I haven't shaken a bell since. But every Christmas Eve I hear it, and every year it gets louder. Ours was a dark green box, closed with red tape, wrapped in dark green wrapping paper. I'm gonna tell you what happened to us when we found ours. And if you find one and still want to take the chance, then that's on you. My family has gotten big enough, to the point where everyone celebrating on Christmas Day just isn't feasible anymore. This year, we celebrated at a large American Legion post on the 22nd, just a few days ago. After eating the buffet of food everyone contributed to and visiting family we only see at most twice a year, it was time for presents. Midway through, a gift was picked up by our family friend dressed as Santa, a gift with no "to from" tag on it. It was covered in a green wrapping paper so dark that at first I thought it was black. Santa had a bunch of excited children clawing at him for more presents, so he set it aside for the time being, until all the other presents had been gifted. Finally, while all the kids played with their new toys and whined about not being able to open the ones that would be better suited to opening at home, he picked up the dark green box and made a plea for anyone who might have brought it, and to whom it might be intended to go to. After some time, and everyone claiming they hadn't brought the box, it was decided that we'd simply open the box. And if whatever it contained interested anyone, then they'd be the lucky one to get a surprise present this year. Most of my family was indifferent about the mystery present either way, and thus mingled, while the few of us whose curiosity had been sufficiently piqued congregated a few feet away from the tree. My cousin Danny was the one who tore away that dark green paper. Beneath it was a cardboard box of the very same color, itself held closed by tape that was a deep, dark red. He pulled the tape from the box and lifted the flaps. From within, he pulled out a small box of markers. This is where things get strange. I'm going to tell you what happened as per my recollection and from my perspective, after which time I will explain why I refer to it as strange. My cousin Danny's 6-year-old son was amongst the 6 of us who wanted to see what was inside the box. Upon seeing what was pulled from the box, his first words were, "What is it?" Which in retrospect is not something I would expect a perfectly intelligent child to say when looking at a dime a dozen 12-pack of markers. But by that point, it had already started. I, as much as anyone else, was in a trance. Anyone else, that is, save for the kids. If I remember correctly, the youngest person that was affected was my 11-year-old cousin Haley. All the other kids, all my little cousins, were still running around playing, while all of us, ostensibly 11 years of age and up, all stood straight up and faced the western wall. The last thing I saw before I unwillingly turned towards the wall was my cousin Danny set the markers onto a chair next to the one in which he was sitting when he opened the box and stand up. We all stood there, transfixed on nothing, about 40 of us. Even my 86-year-old great-aunt, who has been confined to a wheelchair for nearly 2 decades, stood straight up as if she wasn't paralyzed in a fall down the stairs so many years ago. Even though I was under this spell, hypnosis, whatever it was, I was still completely lucid. I was aware of everything going on around me in my field of vision. On the very edge of my periphery, I saw something. A man in a black suit and black pork pie hat. He was whispering into my cousin Jackie's ear just before she dislocated both of her shoulders and started spider-walking around the large room like the deleted scene from The Exorcist. Then he walked further into my line of sight. But I can't remember a single detail about his face. He walked up to my Uncle Steve and whispered in his ear, after which point Steve walked to the wall, which was textured and coarse, and began scratching at it with all of his energy. The eggshell white color soon had streaks of red where his fingernails had broken and torn from his fingers. Next was my 15-year-old cousin Haley, who after hearing whatever the man said began to bite into her own forearms as hard as she could. Before long, blood began dripping to the linoleum floor. Though all 3 of them were doing things that would cause any normal person intense pain, none of them reacted to it. They were like robots. At this point, the kids knew something was wrong. They'd stopped playing, stopped running around. A few of them were crying, trying to get the attention of their parents, who were still stuck in a trance, seemingly incapable of addressing them. I can say for myself that I wanted to move, but I couldn't. It didn't feel like I was being held in place, but almost like I had no muscles with which to move. The man moved to the front of the room and faced us. He spoke to us, but I can't remember what he said. In my memory, it sounds like what adults sound like in Charlie Brown. What I do remember is our responses. All of us, in perfect unison. We said 3 things. To you, we bow. We are nothing, you are all. After we said this, he spoke more words that for the life of me I can't remember. By now, all the kids were screaming and crying, but their noise was drowned out by the man's voice. You control us. This we see. I am no more. There is no me. At this point, my body felt like it was starting to be pulled. It felt like someone was pulling another me from me. I can't really explain it. It was like my life force was being pulled from me, but once it was completely out of me, I wouldn't have been dead. Like I said, I don't know how to explain it. He spoke again, more of the same womp, womp, womp that plays over in my head when I try to remember it. Then we tried to respond. Thank you, Father, for this night. You give us all, please take my... And then I heard an ear-shattering crash from my right, and looking back, I can see my cousin Danny's 6-year-old son with the pack of markers in his hand, hitting his father, who was as still as a statue, repeatedly in the leg and hip, trying desperately to get his attention. Then, in the midst of his fit, he threw the markers to the ground, and the sound they made when they hit wasn't what they should have. The sound was deafening. And just like that, everyone came to. Of course, panic ensued immediately. I myself was still frozen in shock. I just stood there, unable to move, unable to think, just observe. People were comforting their terrified children, helping Jackie with her dislocated shoulders, helping Steve wrap his mangled fingertips, helping Haley with her arm where her teeth had torn away the skin, helping my paraplegic great-aunt, who had toppled to the ground after whatever it was that was inexplicably keeping her standing had gone away. All of this was going on while I was just standing in that same spot, dumbfounded. Then, Danny's son asked something that snapped me back. The following will serve to explain why I referred to the situation as strange when I did. What happened to the thing? I looked to the floor at my right, wondering why a pack of markers had made such a noise as it did. But there were no markers on the floor. I looked to Danny and said, "Where did the markers go?" Still in a state of shock, Danny asked, "What markers?" To which I replied, "The ones from the box?" Danny looked at me in confusion. From the box? You mean the vase Mason shattered? I don't. Where is it? I didn't know what to say to that, though our cousin Adam, who had also been with us when Danny opened the mystery present, chimed in. What the f are you guys talking about? The box had ping-pong paddles. Dan, you pulled out ping-pong paddles. My cousin looked down to his son. Mason, what were you hitting against my leg? The 6-year-old replied through sobs with, I thought, if I broke the cup thing, you would answer. None of us knew what to say, but the next realization hit us all simultaneously. There was nothing on the floor. Not a pack of markers, not a shattered vase, no ping-pong paddles, no cup thing. No dark green wrapping paper, no red tape, no green box. Nothing. It was as though there had never been a mystery present at all. We eventually snapped out of our confusion and went to help the various members of our family who needed it most. Ambulances came, the Legion post closed early, and everyone in my family went home that night, terrified and addled beyond belief, myself included. That night, I awoke in a cold sweat around 3 a.m., and I was able to recall perfectly the nightmare that had awakened me. It was from my perspective, and I was back at the Legion post, entranced like I had been earlier that evening. Only this time, the man in the black suit and black pork pie hat was standing next to me, whispering in my ear, and I still couldn't hear him, but when I woke up, I knew what he had told me. There are more presents, more trees, more unsuspecting people, and no one is safe. So if you find a gift under your tree that you don't remember putting there, don't take a chance. Don't tell yourself you must have just forgotten about it. Do not open it. Smash it. Burn it. Throw it off a bridge into a body of water or into a trash compactor or a wood chipper if you happen to have either one just laying around today. Just please, do not open it. Whoever he is, whatever the present is, it's nothing good, and you might not be as lucky as we were.